the more freedom you have, the happier you are. That's reality, you know.
Yep.
But at one point, when you have a lot of money and you have a lot of choices, you can actually take the wrong choices. So instead of being more free, you are actually a slave, or your wrong choices, you know. So, but at the end of the day, money wasn't the reason for your poor decisions.
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
Today I have a very good friend, talented colleague, Haas Monzini. How are you, man?
Hey, man, it's Monzon again.
Monzon. Oh, my bad. I do remember you had Italian roots, so I was trying to.
Well, I got the Monzoni. Monzoni, yeah.
Monzoni, yeah, Monzon. They're right. But pleasure to have you on the podcast. True honor. You're a very talented, creative individual. Everyone gives me, high reverence on like my own art. But I said, have you ever seen Haas? Have you ever seen what he can do?
Thank you, man.
Yeah. So Haas, you and I have worked alongside each other closely in a short amount of time, right? For a media production company. And we have a lot of memories together. We had a lot of very slight collaborations, but in that time, I've gained a lot of experience from you, inspiration, insight on how to be a better artist, really, because you were brought on as a creative director. And I want to know, like, coming from your past, like coming from your career as a creative director, how did you first start? How did you first get into it?
Well, I started early in uni. I wanted to have. I had in my mind to have the biggest design company in the center of Mexico, where I'm from. So that was in my mind already. So even before finishing university, I opened my studio, and started getting clients and all that stuff. But obviously, I mean, I thought I was the greatest in the world, and in reality, that's where you start failing, which is good, start failing and start like dealing with taxes and start dealing with clients' revisions, and you don't even know how to charge, or even like people just like don't pay you. Like you start actually dealing with a lot of different things, not only in the creative realm, which is what you think you're good at, but in the business side of things, and I think that's what I started. And in my business card, when I started, this is before finishing university, it already said creative director, so wow. I was like, whoa, I am this creative director, but in reality, I was the creative director of what? Like I wasn't directing anybody but me, so
right,
even then, even then it's all, I mean, it was all fake. It was all in my mind.
But you were faking it. You were manifesting, as they would say. No, you were faking it till you make it.
That's exactly it. I was faking it till I made it, for sure.
And look at you now. You got the title, or I at least know you as, and I'm sure the industry, right, as a creative director. And it's interesting that you say, the struggle that you kind of went through with dealing with clients, learning how to charge people, dealing with revisions and notes, because being 27 years old, as much as I think I'm getting older, I'm still a kid. And I have a long way to go. And you reminded me from day one when we first met that I'm a baby in the industry. So a lot of the things that I go through, a lot of the trials and tribulations, I know now are growing pains, right? Of being an artist. So would you say it gets better, Haas, for us artists?
It gets much better because, all these struggles and obstacles just makes you more humble, which is very important, and or more like wiser, because before that all you have is knowledge. Like to me, like there was one thing, like knowledge without what was it? practice is just entertainment or something like that, you know.
Mm.
So and that's reality, yeah, and that's something that you see every day. All these kids that they think they know everything because they googled it or they, you know, but at the end of the day they haven't practiced anything, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you told me, well, like I said, when we first interacted, one of the things that stuck out to me is how bluntly honest you were about, you know, a lot of creatives today, like a lot of what you see, right? Because we're two different generations, you and I. And, you know, from what I see on Instagram, there's people that claim they're creative directors, and maybe they are, maybe they're not. But I remember your point being is that a true creative director has tenure, has experience, has seen it all, right? Has been through the ringer. And you said not to disrespect anyone that's 27, that's a creative
Yes.
director, but they're not truly a creative director. So could you elaborate for that, for the audience, like what you meant by that statement?
Yeah, yeah, and you know, and that's one of the things that I actually learned by doing also when I first came to Canada. I started working at the Toronto Star as a designer.
Yeah.
Then and but I applied as creative director, I remember. And I
Okay.
remember, yeah, a friend of mine told me, no, don't even apply as a director. You need experience. I was like, I have experience, you know. I thought I had, but you know, in reality, I didn't. Like, you need like years. So because it needs the experience not only in graphic design, you need like to be experienced as a writer, you know, and then you need to experience to work with designers and work with writers and understand how to direct, you know, people, which is not easy. Directing designers is not an easy job, and especially in the advertising or marketing or design industry, you know, when everything is like so fast and quick, and then you have to make money. At the end of the day, anything that you're doing is not art, is to make money for your client, you
Yeah.
know. So if it's beautiful but it doesn't work, you know, it's useless, you know. So I think that's one of the things as creative director, you need to know business. Like it's really important that you understand the business of design.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. And you know what? That's something that I had to learn myself, because for the longest time I was, you know, I still am an artist at heart. And I think as an artist first, before I do as a businessman. But in the pandemic, I've kind of learned I need to learn how to monetize my skill set. Right. I need to know how to brand myself and market a lot of the things that make me who I am. So that's why 94 Productions, I created my production company and my clothing line and all these different you know, creative ventures, because as to your point, it's so critical, so integral that an artist knows how to sell themselves, essentially.
Yeah.
So I really respect that. That was again a statement, Haas, that stuck with me to this day. You can imagine, you know, how hard hitting that was, because it was refreshing, really, right, and comforting to hear it from someone that was actually of your reputation, of your credibility, to say a statement like that, right? Because I'm so consumed by a lot of us, right? At my age, millennials, we're so consumed to what we see on social media, we don't really know what is real. So thank you again for that. Haas, you identify as an artist, you identify as a filmmaker, a storyteller, creative director. Is there a certain label you resonate with most? Is there a certain title?
I think lately the title that resonates more with me is creative producer, even though creative producer is not an official title. Like if like in Hollywood, you wouldn't find that. If in a film at the end credits, you would not find creative director, producer. But I think, yeah, that's what I do the most right now, because you know, during the last 20 something years, I've worked with so many people that you know, at the beginning of my career, they were just like nobody, you know, in reality. And today they are named Guillermo del Toro, or
Oh, wow.
you know, Martin. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So 20 years ago, a lot of the friends that I knew from Mexico or here in Canada, you know, they were also starting, you know. But the cool thing about it is, like, this circle is so small that it doesn't really grew that much for the last 20 years. So still the same people, but now they are the director of this, or executive producer of that, or whatever, you know. So but they still like on my phone, you know. So it's funny because like working in this for these companies right now. So it's like they need this. It's like opening a toolbox, and then I choose, like who to call, and then there's your fix.
Well,
So
that's something, yeah, and you just said something again, another point. That is something that it's a benefit of someone in your position, like your tenure, your experience, and something that I really am looking forward to. I aspire to is that you have so many resources, so many connections. Your network has broadened exponentially
yes,
since you were my age, right?
exactly.
And you probably recall when you were my age how difficult and challenging it was to even
Yes.
get in touch with those kinds of people, or at the very least take you seriously, right? But that's part of, I guess, the nature of the grind. And yeah, like as an artist, I kind of remind myself, like it takes time. Like it takes time to build those relationships or those contacts and turn them into a network, right? People don't realize that it's not just a one-time, shout out. You have to really like build on that trust with them, right? That rapport.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of the contacts that you've made, you mentioned Guillermo del Toro. Can you tell us about a lot of these people, like you've that have crossed paths with, or how they've provided an influence in your life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of them are people that you admire,
Mhm.
and then you know what, you go to a conference and then you met them for the first time. And I think something that's really important is like, and right now you don't really have to even to go to conference. Like it's just a matter of like going to their Instagram and send a
So
DM,
true.
just like get, and if they answer, like it's awesome. I just actually got, so there's one of my idols for like the last 30 years that is a designer. His name is Javier Mariscal. He's from
Okay.
Spain, and I've been following him and trying to copy, his style and influenced by his style and everything. This is one guy that designed hotels, furniture, collaborated with the biggest brands, created like the mascot for the Olympics in Barcelona in 1992, stuff like that. And then he's doing right now an NFT project.
Mhm.
And so I said, you know what, I would love to collaborate with him and help him in any way. So I contacted him on Discord, not Discord, on Instagram.
Mhm.
And now we have already like 3 or 4 different Zoom calls, and I'm working with them now.
Oh, that's
And then,
amazing.
yeah, this is amazing actually. So actually, when I was here, this is a book of
Oh,
Javier
wow.
Mariscal, and
Okay.
he got many books of like art and stuff, but this is the
Mhm.
closest thing to Picasso alive today.
Wow. That's a
Um,
powerful statement. Yeah.
he's and I remember there was a friend of mine from the newspaper that told me that I Superman was created or co-created by a Canadian comic book artist.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I didn't know that. But anyway, so they say, well, yeah, imagine having him or interview him or whatever. Yeah, it's not gonna be super hard. So they just call him and he answered and they interview the guy. So I think a lot of people ask me, hey, how do you know all these people? And
Yeah.
sometimes it was just as easy as going to the conference and waiting for lunchtime and just waiting there to see where the guy goes and following him. Hey, how you
There
doing?
you go,
And
man. Yeah,
that's
you're
it.
committed. I love it. And Hans, like you're saying all the great things. Like obviously for me, it's on a smaller scale, but I resonate a lot to what you're saying about how easy it is to just kind of put yourself out there, connect with people that you admire, and keep them as contacts. And for instance, what I mean by that is my podcast. My podcast, when I first started this, I always used to joke with friends, I'll do it. And I was like thinking to myself, I'll probably only get like my friends on it if I'm lucky. And what I realized about the power of this platform is, like you said, you could just DM anyone. You could really connect with anyone in your industry, and they don't have to be like a Guillermo del Toro or like a Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people like ourselves that are at the same, well, I shouldn't say you, but like more people like my age at the same level and experience or whatever have you, and they are willing to share their story. They're willing to provide insight on their journey. And doing that, like I said, like you said, having the conviction to recognize the possibility of having a voice and the tenacity to reach out and connect with these people is really a beautiful testament to who we are as artists and like what we can do for ourselves in this industry. And I think it's so important that people have that courage, that it is possible, as proven with your story, Haas, right? Like you reached out to
Yeah.
someone you admired, that you think is like a Picasso, the modern Picasso. And I'm really happy for you that you're able to connect and build a relationship with this man.
Yeah, and I think also something important is like, what can you offer to them? You know, like I
Yes,
think that's the most important thing. That is not like calling them or whatever because you're a fan and you want their autograph or a picture or whatever. It's like
so important.
you have something to help. You just have something for them. Just like, I don't know, again, Gary Vee and D-Rock. I don't know you ever seen the story.
Yeah,
Like,
I do. I
here,
follow them. Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
amazing. You know, like, hey, I'll do your videos for free for a year. I'm like, what? Okay, you know, and now, you know, they're the best pals ever and stuff like that. But you're offering
Exactly.
something to them, you know. So, and that's something I also told my kids every time. So you have to always think on what's in it for them. No, what's in it for me, what's in it for them every time, because that's the only way, because we're selfish, you know. So when I
Yeah.
meet someone, you're always thinking, I wonder what can he do for me, you know.
Yeah.
He's a lawyer, he's a doctor, he's a rich guy or whatever. Instead of thinking like the other way around. And that is like other-centered thinking, and it makes you grow exponentially, really, you know, when you think like that way. It sounds counterintuitive. You know.
No, but it's extremely strategic and advantageous to your
Yeah,
cause. Like
yeah,
I like what you said. It's, you have that mentality. It might sound very conceited what I'm about to say, but I have an attitude sometimes where it's like, I don't need them, they need me, right? And I give myself that attitude in a sense where it's like, back to your point, is you provide that value, because a lot of times, again, that can come across really pretentious, but you need to have that tenacity, in order
yes,
to have the conviction to even step up and ask these people like for their
yeah. I
time,
love
or
that. I
provide,
love that,
right?
man.
And I'm serious, Haas. I always used to tell, even like for a retail job, when I used to help my friends or my sister when she was nervous about like applying, I'd say to her, I say, listen, they don't need you need they don't need you as much as you need them. You know what I mean? Or you don't need them as much as they need you. Sorry.
Yes,
And the reason, again, that mentality has spoken wonders to me. Like, you know, I was able to create this podcast. I was able to have the conviction to start my business and connect with a lot of clients, and fellow people that became friends. But I still have a long way to go. But I think going back to, like you said, harking back to that mindset, and providing value to people is so essential. And I really do take that to heart, what you said, because I do apply that when I look for new clients myself, right? A lot of the clients that I seek myself, for videography, photography, and things like that, I'm genuinely like interested in their craft and what they can provide. But at the same time, I'm more curious as to what I can provide them. You know, I'm saying like, how can we
yeah,
make it better? And I think that's the essence of being an artist, right? We're always looking to how to improve something or someone with our own talents,
yes,
right? Yeah. But
yeah.
so
No, I love
sorry,
that.
go ahead. Yeah.
No, no, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. No, for sure. And I'm so happy we're on the subject now, like about social media and about you DMing people and you know, expanding your network, and finding new career opportunities. Funny enough, I have a confession. Like during the pandemic, I was so restricted creatively, or I felt as if I was, that I reached out to a lot of you know, people in the industry, like verified accounts, you know, Scorsese and all these different directors and talents. And honestly, like no one got back. But the point is that, back to your point about providing value, is I copied and pasted the text that said basically, I'm willing to work for free, I'm willing to provide insight any which way I can, instead of saying, hey, I'm a big fan, I'd love to work with you someday, right? It's what
Yes,
can you do for them, right? So on the
yeah,
subject of social media, Haas, it's a very effective tool for the modern artist, as we've already established, right? To showcase their works and market their brands. And I've noticed you've been quite active on Instagram lately, sharing several of your artworks that represent your unique creative style and expression. I love the sketches with the graphite. And so I want to know, how has social media benefited you as an artist in your personal and professional life with what you've been posting?
yeah. Mostly is, you know, out of mind, out of sight.
Okay.
That's pretty much it, you know. So
Okay.
I'm putting stuff just for people to remind them that I'm still alive, you know.
Oh,
And then
okay.
yeah, so you know, from time to time you post, you know, drawings, and then you post something like, oh, here with Fluffy, so it's
Right.
like, okay, kind of thing. So he is still alive, and not only that, he's alive and thriving pretty much, because he's
Right.
like with the director of the, I don't know, stuff for the Marvels, or for the, or with Fluffy, or doing this other thing with Tom, or whatever,
Right.
but then you post like drawings, or people, or pictures with my grandson, so something that I like is, first of all, not to look like I'm someone else,
Yeah.
like because a lot of people, like, this is funny, a lot of people, like, when I met them, I don't know, church or this or that, they say, hey, where are you, like, where have you been lately, in
Yeah.
Japan, or in whatever? I'm like, what, or they think like I hang out with only like super famous people or whatever, so I'm super far from the truth, but so I've been lucky enough to work with awesome people, in projects that are like awesome, that I look for these projects,
Mhm.
not because I want to be famous or big or rich, but
Right.
because some of these guys are there because they are work like 18 hours a day, and that's how they got there, and they're now
Yeah.
doing the film in China, or they're doing the commercial for Ford, or whatever, and that's pretty much it,
Yeah. It's just to make yourself known, make people understand. But in
that's
terms
it.
of your own career, you have your own strategy for that, right? Like social media isn't as integral to you, imperative, right?
Well, not to get business. No, no,
No. Okay.
no, no.
Okay.
It's just to be there. Like, so people don't forget about you, I think.
And and you know what, that makes sense to me a lot, I'll be honest with you. And again, not to bring up your age or anything like that, but because you've probably created such a vast knowledge and network of people in your lifetime, social media at this point is just a gimmick for you, really, right? It's just something for you, like you said, to make people know that you're still alive, you're still here, I'm still a friend of yours. But you have so many people under your belt that you don't even need to use the platform probably to get there, right? So that's really cool, man. I thought I'd bring it up because I'm curious. Every artist is different, right? There are some people that are very
Yes.
dependent on it, right? Making a lot of money. There's some people like myself that I use it to make connections or find a new client. And then there's people like yourself that they just use it as social media was intended, to connect with your community,
Yes.
and make yourself present. That's a really cool, man. I want to know though, on the flip side, if you feel as an artist, as someone of your stature, your status, do you feel that the platform, social media itself, is detrimental, provides drawbacks to artists in terms of, you know, having a negative influence on like vanity that affects maybe the content they're producing, that they're doing it more for the likes than they are for the actual authenticity of what they're making, or like also unhealthy comparisons with other artists? Like, do you feel this is something that's important to discuss, or am I reading into
Yeah.
it?
Well, I think social media. I mean, social
Yeah.
media, especially maybe Instagram, is the best thing that ever happened to artists.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. So I know a lot of artists that what they live, they make a living thanks to Instagram.
Right.
And I'm talking about people that make collectibles, like resin collectibles, or just like, or paintings, or whatever, like ceramics. Like, Instagram is free, and in Instagram, if you give value to your audience, that's where you can get 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 followers, and then if you have an actual, I wouldn't say even like a strategy, because I think strategies and tactics on social media, it's like having strategies and tactics to make friends in your neighborhood. It would be so fake. So I think the guys
Yeah.
that actually do are successful in this are people that are to get there organically.
Okay.
Like being like just consistent in their work, consistent in their message, and
Yeah.
again, the what's in it for me is like, so what's the value that you're giving to your audience. That's a huge one. And then if you sell tutorials, or if you sell whatever, your audience is so thankful that they're gonna buy it because they believe in you, and they want to help you. Yeah, no, social media is amazing, man. It's huge. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
But I love what you just said, that it's more important for the it's more beneficial if you look at it as a way to grow organically and not pay for followers, or not get caught up into the whole vanity. because
Yeah.
that's something that I struggle with too, right? Like only because I've been grown up in that generation where you from time to time might think, oh shit, like my follower count's not as high as this guy, or like this guy's putting out more than me. And then I kind of go back to my, modest roots and I say, I'm putting out my message, I'm providing value. This is where I stand. And I think as long as I'm consistent, I will find an audience, even if it is an incremental growth. At least it's some sort of growth. At least it's some sort of effort to showcase who I am as an artist, right? Because I think as artists, like I said, we can get too caught up, as you mentioned in the beginning, in our heads and not really remember like why we're doing it in the first place. Like why we're artists in the first place. Yeah. All right, Haas, welcome back. Took a little bit break there. So Haas and I, just very insightful, very informative, hearing about your journey, and specifically with social media. We're being on the topic about how important it is for artists to utilize it, but not get so caught up in their heads, using the platform to remember that it's a networking tool and nothing more. Right? It's designed to build yourself organically and not to get consumed by the vanity of it, of paying for users and, just getting caught up in all the superficiality that diminishes a person's artistic integrity, right? So really happy we're on the same page about that, Haas. And as someone like yourself who proudly and publicly identifies as a thinker, as we've established on this podcast, thinking about what's next, what's new, what projects are you looking to pursue next as an artist?
Yeah, well, as an artist, like that I actually love doing is helping other artists, like young artists, especially in the business or entrepreneurial side of things, branding side of things, because I believe that, as Picasso said, sell your name, not your art.
Okay.
And that's something, and that's something. It's not easy to understand that sometimes your art is secondary, which is really weird to say that, but Picasso, at the end of the day, what he sold was his signature. His signature was a valuable thing, So one of the things that I remember, like I think every parent told every kid that wanted to be an artist, like, you want to be poor, be an artist, kind of thing, And then so it's always related. You're an artist, you'll be poor. And that's far from the truth. Like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, all these guys were like super duper rich, but not only that, they were amazing, So you can be amazing at art and also not being poor, Everybody uses Van Gogh as the standard of like the poor artist, which is not even fair, You have Picasso, you have Dali, you have Miro, like all these guys were like wealthy, but happy, so it's not like if you paint and you sell your art, you're not a sellout. It is at the end of the day, it is a business.
It's frowned upon. Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it's a business.
It is a business. I mean, you have to, I mean, something that I've been chatting, and this is important. Francisco Herrera, my friend. So he's an amazing artist, and then we always win strongly about like why people, like when you're talking about art and money, there's always that people like think is wrong and whatever. But in reality, first you have to study what really money is. So what money gives you, what money brings you is choices. That's all money does. It gives you more. The more money you have, the more choices you have.
Sure.
The more choices you have, the more freedom you have. So for example, when you're in jail, you have like no choices. So you have no freedom. You have more choice, you have more freedom. The more freedom you have, the happier you are. That's reality, But at one point, when you have a lot of money, you have a lot of choices, you can actually take the wrong choices. So instead of being more free, you are actually a slave, or your wrong choices, So, but at the end of the day, money wasn't the reason for your poor decisions,
Right.
Anyway, so that's what I said, we were thinking, if we are smart, if you're really smart, would you rather use like your time is finite, then would you rather work for $16 an hour? The hour is gone, or $300 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
it's a no-brainer. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Then why would you choose the $16? So it doesn't make sense at all.
So what you're trying to do is help artists, or that's your mission, work smarter as opposed to harder, right?
Work smarter and
work for them, make their money work for them. Yeah. Provide fulfillment in their lives. Yeah, that's smart, man. I that's a noble cause, man, and I really respect that. That's something, again, an artist like myself coming up, before I met you, struggled with. I'm still learning the game. I have some sort of an income coming in because of my art or what I've created with my imagination. But at the same time, I realize it's a long game, and how imperative, how important it was, because you're right, Haas. Like they came to a point, even for my mental health, that we all want freedom, right? We all want choices. We all want happiness, and those are all byproducts of money. The reality is, and I know people don't want to, listen to that notion, but it's the reality. When I was in the pandemic, I had no job, and I was just, doing art every day. Someone could argue, yeah, but weren't you happy? You were doing what you love. I'm like, yes, but there was no fulfillment. Like, I just felt I was doing it for myself, and there was nothing in return that I could, reinvest it back into the business or back into the art. You know what I mean? So now that there is some sort of income coming in, that stabilizes my mental health. That makes me realize, hey, like now with this money, I can use it to buy equipment, or I can use it to buy tools, or I can use it, to do this podcast, or, you know what I mean? It's like that, like you said, back to the freedom of choices. Like, absolutely, man. Money facilitates, right? Money makes things easier. Yeah. So that's sorry, go ahead.
So that's I think that's for, like, that would be my purpose for the rest of my life. That's pretty much like my purpose, and by doing that, as I told you before, then projects just like start popping from here, there, and whatever, so absolutely. I'm doing what I love, which is helping other artists. And when I say helping, in reality, they helping me more than I helping them. That's a reality. But then participating in their projects or working in other projects, that's how I really going to, not get it old.
It keeps you young, right? It keeps you alive. It keeps you relevant, right? It keeps you in touch with the modern industry, and the ever-changing landscape, right? So very smart move on your behalf. And I really admire that, because a lot of artists out there are struggling. A lot of artists don't know how to monetize. Like I said from the beginning of the podcast, right? Like they don't know how to monetize their passion. But there is a way, which leads me to my next point. This whole NFT Web3 space, right? We've been told this is the greatest invention, greatest revolution for artists to make money and to make a name for themselves. Are you, as an artist, looking at this space? Are you looking to pursue it as your next venture as well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now I'm actually that's part of my full-time stuff that I'm doing, is working on NFT, creating NFT collections for other artists, but I'm also educating artists. So right now, what my focus and the focus on the company that I'm helping with is helping artists that they have already a name for themselves. Why? Because the NFT space right now, it's so new that investors, they would like to invest in value, and this value is really their signature. Coming back again, like the signature, that's the value. So we're focusing on that. So by doing that, we're helping actually to discover what are the pitfalls, or what are the pluses, or contrasts that this new platform has.
Okay, great.
It is not easy. Like, something that I could tell you, like, whoever wants to get into this NFT space, thinking that if you get into, you're gonna get rich fast, it's like,
it's not. Nowhere. I've been thinking of it myself as an artist, right? Like, because I'm always ambitious and thinking of the next step and the next move. But I know it requires, like you said, like you don't just jump in and you become rich off of it. I strongly believe too, and as we know, in our past work relationship, that you also need to have some sort of foundation, right? Some sort of
Yeah.
community in order to make money off of it, build it. That makes sense, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't just kind of go into it and start posting your artworks like Instagram, right? Like people, you might get a customer here and there, but I think to really optimize, the value you'll get from being involved with NFTs is to create the community first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the value? Like, a lot of people don't really understand what value is, and value equals help. That's so easy,
Sure.
So something that has value is going to help me. So gold helps me to buy stuff, or helps me to buy stuff in the future because it goes off, it goes higher and higher. A book
Right.
helps me. A book that is idiotic and is like pointless, it has no value because it didn't help me. So I think when you think about art, even though it's subjective and like beautiful or it's ugly or whatever, the reality of art and the investors is what's the value, and the value is equals, again, help. How is this art going to help me? Okay, so this is going to position me in a different status. That's why I have a Picasso. That's why I have a Lamborghini.
Smart.
It's exactly the same thing.
Yep.
So right now, if you buy or if you have one of the Bored Apes, well, it gives you status of like super high in the web community, and you are part of the club and all that stuff. So you have to think of the NFT space and the Web3 community is a very different kind of collector. So it's not your regular. If you think that they're gonna buy your art because it's beautiful, then you're kind of wrong.
You're missing the point. Yeah, you're missing the whole point.
Yeah, you're missing the point. Yeah.
And that goes, and I relate it to obviously it's more simplified version, but Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Pokemon cards when I was growing up. It signals to your friends. And even now when I look at my binder, there are certain rare cards I have that either go for a lot of money or the artwork's beautiful. But it's the community, right? It's the people, the fans of the show, the fans of the franchise that deem it valuable, right? Like we're the ones that say this card is valuable, because there are cards that the new ones that they make, let's say, I'm sure they're valuable in their own right, but they're not as valuable as the ones when I was growing up, like the nostalgia behind them. And the reason why they reprint them is because of that, right? Because they know that there's a following, like you said, a community behind them. And it's not just the artwork itself, it's just what it represents, right? How it was presented in the show, and the fan base behind the card, the rarity, right? So very cool, man. Like even fashion, right? Like I'm wearing this hoodie, it's by Justin Bieber, Drew House. I enjoyed it. His line of fashion, I modeled my clothing line off of that, like artistic marketing behind it. But again, it signals, right? It signals to people when I wear this, like, oh, like he gets it, he's in it, he likes streetwear, he likes that world. And exactly with NFTs, it's not so much the artwork itself, it's what it represents.
Exactly.
So I really find it fascinating, and only the tip of the iceberg, right, Haas, with this whole space. And it's only begun, as they say.
Yeah, it's only begun. I would follow. Yeah, man, there's a bunch of content online. Amazing stuff. Yeah. So
yeah, I definitely have to keep in touch with that kind of content, keep myself up to date with it, because it's a rapidly growing industry, right? So definitely something to look to. And before, now that we established who you are as a person and your creative projects that you got underway, I like to bring it back and really understand who you are from within. And by that, I mean, why is being an artist important to you? And what will you do to ensure the medium never dies?
Yeah, well, it is important because I think art keeps me sane. So it keeps me sane, and it keeps me relevant, also relevant to me. That's because every time that I create stuff, even though I sit down and just like do doodles, and some of these doodles are really ugly. Like some of these doodles are like, I've seen them and like, oh my goodness, this is ugly. I don't care, because when I'm doing that through the process, I'm surprising myself with the results. So every time I start, I never had something in mind, which I love. So then, depending on the mood, or depending even the music I'm listening to, I started, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, whatever. So I started doing something like softer with charcoal, or maybe going to use some color, or maybe just like nothing, an experiment.
Yeah.
and see what happens.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's so ugly that I just tear the thing up and throw it to the
exactly.
garbage.
Same here.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, So it's me just sane
Yeah.
and relevant to me. And at the same time, when I post these things, online, it's cool because some of them bring some feelings that are positive or negative or whatever to some people, and I think that's important because I love that reaction. I love there's one that I did, I think 2 weeks ago, and I hate it so much, and my wife,
Okay.
whoa, that's ugly. I put it
Yeah.
there, and then I sold it, and I don't put things for sale.
Oh, wow.
But there was two different people say, hey, I love this. So I got into me like my soul or whatever,
Yeah. Spoke to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sold it for like super cheap. I don't make like reality, like
Okay.
whatever, and then they came, they were super happy. And anyway, so that's what I love
Well,
about
congratulations
designing.
on that, because
Books.
that's
Tips
every
to
artist's
people.
dream, right? Even making some buck out of what they create from their
Yeah.
mind, right? As Quentin Tarantino
Yeah,
said,
of
like
course.
he has my hero, Quentin Tarantino, he has a moment where he says, when I walk into my house, I just can't believe everything up here in my head paid for this, right? Because there's very
Yeah.
few professions that you could attest your wealth to that. So yeah, that's a beautiful story, Haas, and very comforting to hear, because as an artist myself, like, you've seen my drawings. There are days when I'm just like sluggish. I'm just like, getting into my head. It's not going to be this artwork's crap. It's not as good as the last one. And like you said, the best artists are the ones that keep putting things out, right? No matter what.
Yeah.
It's the discipline, and I think it's so important. And I have to remind myself, every artist does, right, that it's not always going to be perfect. And if you're striving for perfection, you'll never get it, because there's no such thing.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the difference. That's something I didn't understand until later in my life. Forget about the after. So I remember the principal in the university, he kept telling us, you're not artists, you're designers, and we were like, what are you talking about? Like, we are artists,
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, when you're an artist, you do whatever you like because it's for you. So you don't care, but when you're a designer, it is form and function. So function is first, and then form is secondary, and then in art is everything is about form.
Yeah.
Forget about function. The function doesn't even matter,
Yeah.
So once you start understanding that difference, then you are really happy, because then you don't care. You paint and whatever, and if whoever says that's ugly, you're like, that's okay.
And at the end of the day, yeah, like you said, it's a subjective industry, right? Art is meant to be interpreted. Art is ambiguous, right? Like it's different things to different people. There are so many movies that we probably revere, and then when you talk to family or friends, they say it was garbage. And now, are they wrong? I don't know.
No.
But I don't think they are, because they have their own opinions, right? Just like I have my opinions on it's all taste, right? It's not objective. So that's what we have to remind ourselves, is that there is an audience. We have an audience. It's just not maybe for the person that's rejecting us, right? They're out there. You just got to keep true and authentic to your craft. And that's what I say with social media, not getting caught up in the vanity of it, because it happens to the best of us, right? We want to be the best. We want to be seen. So we try to conform to all these superficialities. But the reality is, man, is that you just got to be true to yourself, and true to what you express. That's what I love about your page, right? Is when I go through it, I'm like, this is Haas. This is an expression of who you are. You know what I mean? You're not doing Disney characters. Just like when I go to Herrera Box, right? His Instagram, he's not trying to pull what you do. And even if he is, I'm sure it's because he's trying to experiment, or he's trying to expand his artistic palette. But it's more like, my point being is that, like, you just know that you're being authentic. Like, that's who you are, right? That's an expression of who you are. So anyway,
when
man,
I was in LA, he said, I'm gonna make a Monzoni.
Oh yeah,
so,
nice.
So he actually tried to make one. Oh,
right, so for all the YouTube listeners, we got visuals here. Okay. Oh, amazing.
This is an actual original from a cover from Spider-Man.
That's amazing. That's right, because he drew. Yeah, that's right. He was an illustrator.
So this is the colored one.
Yeah, crazy talented.
This guy, I don't even know. So he made this one. So this is his Monzoni.
That's amazing. But that's you. That's your signature style, man.
Yeah, but he made it, just
No, he
that's
made,
his
but,
signature.
yeah. But I'm saying is like, I just know looking
yeah.
at that, like that's you, man. Like that,
Yeah.
it's amazing how art works, eh?
Yeah, that's funny.
Like your shape and
funny.
your style, but that's amazing, man, that he made that for you. That's great. No, he's a great
Yeah.
guy. I'm happy you guys connected and you guys are friends, and hopefully he can come on the podcast as well. I'll definitely reach out to him.
Yeah, this is what I do.
Oh yeah, I love it. It's so dark and edgy because you're such a lovable guy. Like he's so happy and optimistic that like never would think that would come out of you. That's amazing, man. Well, Haas, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, your knowledge, your insight as an artist, as a professional in the industry. I think you're helping a lot of young artists listening to this podcast and off the podcast, really, to kind of identify who they are and really search for the next big thing, which is the NFT Web3 space.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. This is really awesome that you're doing this.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. It's a platform I told, like I said, Haas, from day one. I've started off with friends, but then I wanted to expand it to creatives, local creatives, and then people in other cities that they can share their story, right? Maybe they might have something something that's similar to them or something that they can learn from someone else. But the important thing is, like you said, provide value, be inspired, and know that you're not alone, because it's a very turbulent industry, very turbulent path. But it's the right one because that's the one we choose. So
yeah, good.
Yeah. So thank you again, Haas. Thank you again, everybody, for listening. And
you're welcome, Daniel.
Yes, we'll talk soon.